Peace, this is Jananda. So we're going to talk about the frequency of homeopathy. This is a deep subject. So let's get going. I'm going to talk about the mathematics of homeopathy, how remedies made, the founders, the basic laws, dosage, frequency, timing, and who is who in homeopathy. So first of all, I am not a doctor. I'm not even a homeopath. This is for educational purposes only. I'm a good listener and I ask a lot of questions, so I encourage you to do the same on your path and your quest for being the head healer of your household. Let's start with what is homeopathy. This word is often not understood. It's a Latin word, and all of homeopathy is in Latin in order to create a universal language. Homeo means like or similar in Latin. Pathy means illness. So when you put them together, homeopathy means similar illness. This is based on the first law in homeopathy, the law of similars, which means in English, like cures like. Still sounds vague? All right, it causes a similar illness in a healthy person, then it could provide the body the information it needs to bring the person back into balance. Let me give you an example. When you cut an onion, all of a sudden your eyes start running, your nose starts having clear runny mucus. This is a healthy person exhibiting information that the remedy, in this case, the onion, or allium cepa in Latin, would provide that information to the body. So if you see a sick person exhibiting the symptom of a clear runny nose or watery eyes, you would think allium cepa. This will give the body that same information to restore it to homeostasis. So we call this process the curative effect, and it applies across the board to all substances. So any substance used in a healthy person could provide the information it needs to bring an unhealthy person back into balance. We're going to talk about this throughout the whole class, so sit tight. Here we go. How this substance affects the healthy person can cure a person who's exhibiting those symptoms. That is the curative effect. So let's take a step back. The whole goal here is to bring people home to oneself. This principle is referred to as homeostasis. I'm going to give you my common terms for it. It's about restoring the body to wholeness, to wellness. It includes holding boundaries with foreign substances so they don't ultimately bother you. To me, this is the art of remaining neutral or having an educated response. The true body wisdom knows how to respond when it hasn't been tampered with. So if someone comes up to you or some substance approaches your body and your body can take a deep breath and have a patient response, that's one option. If your body gets angry or irritated by the substance, starts sneezing, or the person is irritating you, so you get angry and wrathful by nature. You see what I mean? This is really the big picture. That ultimately we were made in the image of perfection. So how do we return to that? And that is what homeopathy is here to teach us and educate us on. It's all about returning to the source, the beauty, the perfect potentiality of your genetic code, your divine blueprint that's in your fingerprint. Samuel Hahnemann is the known founder of homeopathy. So he was born April 10th in 1755 in Germany. In his early life, he was a translator of many languages. He had a vast education and really could have done anything that he wanted with his life in these times. But what happened is he was watching how barbaric and uneducated the medical field was. He wasn't feeling safe and okay with how people were being treated with leeches and bloodletting and using really toxic substances that could kill people, and did a lot of times. So he had this innate desire to help people, and he saw this gap and wanted to do something. So that was really what guided his journey, was this pure place of wanting to help people by finding cures with the least amount of harm. So he started diluting these toxic substances they were already using, things like aconitum. And then he would observe, and he tried all of this on himself, and he would get results. And he would keep doing this work. And so he wrote this book called The Organon. And he kept writing another edition and another edition as his work kept evolving. And he devoted his whole life to this. So what did he really figure out? It was the power of dilution and succussion. So what do these two words mean, right? Let's start with taking this toxic substance in its crude form, so in its pure form on earth. But when you dilute it, so water it down, and then succuss it, which means shake vigorously, it becomes curative. So this is what he figured out, and maybe others before him also figured this out. But this is what he was bringing to the table. And it's because his mindset wasn't trying to kill things, right? So this is that reminder again. We aren't trying to beat or match nature. We're here to harmonize with it. So by taking this crude form and diluting it, it now becomes an energetic form. We receive more curative energy from less physical substance. This is trusting the body's wisdom and the terrain to find harmony with the foreign substance. Or they leave willingly. The substance doesn't want to be there. So Hahnemann continues to practice throughout Europe in the 1800s. He wasn't very accepted in Germany, so he moved to France. And this is where he practiced until his dying day, July 2nd, 1843, with his wife Melanie, who encouraged and helped him in his practice. Homeopathy also moves to the United States with Constantine Hering, who's a German doctor turned homeopath in 1830. In this time, it spreads into many hospitals, and it flourishes as the main medicine for pandemics and mental illness. Let's talk about Constantine Hering. He's a really important person because his story is ironic. He's hired to disprove Dr. Hahnemann's findings. However, in the process, he injured himself, and so he used the law of similars, and it cures him. And so he goes on to spread homeopathy with such vigor and belief through it saved his own life, right? Anybody who has a near-death experience tends to come back with really great commitment to what it is that they're here to do. So in the 30s, he immigrates to the United States and becomes the father of American homeopathy. And his big gift to us is Hering's Law of Cure. The precept of his law can be used to assess health, history, and present symptoms. So let's break this down and understand. See, this beautiful spiral really helps understand what on earth Hering's Law of Cure is. It's basically the law of direction. Cure has to follow a direction or a path. And perhaps this is a version of sacred geometry, right? The law of direction means cure has to follow a direction or a path. Let this really sink into your body. Here's some of the directions. There's inward to outward, from more important organs to less important ones. There's above to downward. And then there's symptoms that disappear in the reverse order that they appeared. So it will retrace past conditions. It's ground in again to the foundation of creation. Your body has an innate desire to heal itself. Ultimately, it's always trying to return home. In homeopathy, this is called homeostasis. Homeopathy uses symptoms to treat the person, not the disease, like in Western medicine. And the remedies educate the body on how to respond. So let's go to the first understanding here. Healing moves from the innermost part of the person to the outermost part of the person. The body protects what's most important at all costs, right? So this is seen as, let's start with the vital organs, right? The heart, the brain. The body is going to protect these. And this can also be seen as the emotions. So you'll see the information will push out to the outermost part of the body, such as the skin. So if you see a disease on the skin, you want to be grateful that it's on the skin and it's not in the body. So in would be emotions, or like the lungs. When someone is sick and has a deep lung thing going on, you can tell the body's trying to push it outwards, right? That's the path of cure. It's the direction out. Out would be muscles or skin. So those are more superficial. That's the first understanding. The second understanding is health is restored as symptoms move from the upper to the lower parts of the body. So you'll see things push out the extremities. If you see something in like the knees, you know that it's pushing its way out. It's getting out. And then the third path is it occurs from the present to the past. So the progression is often seen in chronic cases because over time information has gotten suppressed into the body. So what's going on right now is often more superficial and will need to be tended to first. It's like a lock and key, and you need to find the right remedy first, which follows the path. And you'll sometimes need a series of remedies to continue to unlock each moment back to the past where the initial trauma happened. And so being able to treat that initial trauma is what's going to unlock the whole case. But you'll often need to start with what's surfacing right now in order to unlock the case. I get that this all sounds a little bit tricky. And you know why? It's because this whole system of medicine has been suppressed. So we're really working on demystifying the laws and the understanding of the mindset of homeopathy and returning home. This is the path of remembrance and restoring what we knew. And I can tell you there's a whole energy that's still working on us not understanding and not having access to this information. So if you look at in just the United States alone, what happened to homeopathy is by the 1960s, it was almost completely extinguished due to the AMA. This is the American Medical Association. They were established as a marketing wing that would help pharmacies that manufactured pharmaceuticals flourish in the United States. After the series of wars, they needed a place for their chemicals to go. And so this was their quote unquote natural evolution, was to continue to offer these toxins to people to suppress disease and keep them in their medical system. So stepping away from that, let's return to our remembrance and look at the divine mathematics of homeopathy. So how does this work? This blueprint or energy of the original plant. So we're going back to the source, right? It's changed through dilution and succussion, as I've said. They both become more potent the more they are diluted. The remedy holds a frequency that educates the body how to return home or put it back on its path, because in essence, it brings lost parts of you back to your natural self or your pure state. When you think about this process of dilution and why it becomes more potent is because each time you're adding another layer of the remedy, it's creating this energetic blueprint. It's like a blanket, building a tapestry, one on top of each other, until you get to a 6, until you get to a 200. And so we're going to continue to look and understand what potency is. First, let's start with how it's made. Here's your original source, in this case, calendula. Harvest your calendula, you put it in vodka, and you've made yourself the mother tincture. So we're going to look at the Roman numerals here of X equals 10, C equals 100, and M equals 1000. These are the most common ways that you'll see homeopathy written. X means the original substance is diluted in a ratio of 1 to 10. C, 1 to 100, and M, 1 to 1000. So here's your original mother tincture. 1 drop of the mother tincture, 9 drops of alcohol. And you'll do that again and again and again until you get the 6X. Okay, and then so with the C, you're dealing with 1 drop of mother tincture to 99 drops of alcohol. So if you wanted to make a 200, you would do that 200 times. It takes a lot of time. So we lean in to this understanding, wow, how homeopathy becomes safe when we're taking, say, a toxic substance, a poisonous substance, because there's no crude form left in a remedy past a 12C. The energy of the substance gets stronger as the physical matter gets less. And so you now know that some remedies, before they've been turned into homeopathic remedies, can be considered toxic, but past a 12C, they're no longer in its gross form. So the more curative it becomes, honestly, the more toxic a substance as it starts. So arsenica album is a great example of this. You wouldn't want to take it in its crude form, but it is a beautiful remedy for diarrhea and all kinds of toxins and pollutants in the air. As you see how much time this takes, homeopathy is made in a pharmacy. They have strict guidelines. They have access to plants. All those plants have specific guidelines, say around harvesting arnica in France, for example. Their establishments are extremely clean. That's of the utmost concern. They're made in small batches. All of this is printed, manufactured. They put dates on it for expiration, but it doesn't actually expire. These are all just part of the FDA guidelines, which have really cracked down in America on what can be offered. So most people understand herbal medicine, so I'm going to now take this bridge from herbal medicine to homeopathy to understand how it's actually working. Homeopathy does not require the microdose, so you're not using a tiny, tiny dose of it, only the law of similars to be homeopathy. So like treats like. How do you access the information of homeopathy? So it doesn't travel through your bloodstream like a tincture does. It doesn't travel through your digestive tract like a supplement, and it doesn't pass through your skin like an essential oil. It is none of these things. It enters your mucous membrane, and that's how it talks to your cells. How you're going to determine dosage, every company is different, so you need to read the label to ensure what a proper dose is. The remedy itself is on the outside of the pellet, and all the companies have different densities depending upon what they're made of to carry the remedy. So lactose dissolves fastest. Sucrose takes longer, and it's also stronger in the bottle. So you might want to have some of both because you might need a remedy to dissolve very quickly. But the lactose also creates powder at the bottom, and it loses some of its integrity. For people who don't want milk, sucrose is also a better option. And then here's how to read a label. They're going to have the Latin name, Arnica montana, 6C. That's the dilution level and scale. And then they'll tell you the indication, and it's going to be much more than what's written here, and then who made it. So it's really important to check out your labels. So administering homeopathy. You want to avoid touching the pellets. You allow the remedy to talk directly to your cells. You don't want oil or any other thing on it if you can avoid that. Place the pellets into the top. Count them out as best you can, but don't stress out about it. It's more important just to get it in there. Put them under the tongue, close the mouth, and wait. The mouth heat activates the information. Then they dissolve and enter the mucous membrane through the saliva. Frequency. This is a really big question. How often do you take it? By and large, this depends on the severity of the event. For acute illnesses, it can be repeated more often. For illnesses that are coming again and again, so we'll say a chronic illness, you're going to have to change the potency. You're going to need to look even deeper. So I'm going to give you an example. Here's Hypericum. Herbalists know this as St. John's wort or St. John's wort. And in its crude form, mixed in oil, for example, it's a wonderful topical. And in the tincture form, people use it as a mood shifter. So now we're going to take this and dilute it and succuss it. So this means to turn it into a potency. And in the 200, it's a wonderful pain relief for nerve-rich areas. So if somebody's having an acute situation that's involving nerve-rich areas, you could use it in a 200 twice a day, for example. If you look at it in its mega potency, which means a 10 mm in this case, you're going to be addressing a whole mindset of Hypericum, which are people who want to go really fast and hit things really hard and live this like outward, very expressive life. Think of yellow, think of fire. That's when the plant is most prolific, is in the summer. And so the mega potency actually draws the person inward, draws like their teeth inward and together if there's a gap in the front. So this is what I mean about the big difference around frequency. By and large, for acute illnesses, the 4-dose rule is one of the most standard ways. So you administer every 15 minutes for 1 hour, then once an hour, then once every 2 hours, then to every 4 hours. If you see no change within the first 3 or 4 doses, you stop the remedy. Falling asleep or a fever are both considered beneficial. The match rule. So doubling or tripling a dose does not cause an overdose. In fact, it inspires the body to take action. It's that gentle reminder that you need to give a toddler. Again, remind, again, remind, again, remind, to bring them home and into themselves to have an appropriate response, right? So you can think of this doses as matches, and each one is helping the campfire start quicker. It's not going to get a bigger fire in the end, but it is going to get it going quicker in the beginning. So this is the case with homeopathy when you want to create a change. Another option is making an aqueous solution. So 1 dose of the remedy to 4 ounces of pure water, succuss, so shake at least 10 times, and then you administer 1 teaspoon as a dose. You want to use a clean plastic or wooden spoon. Why would you do this? It's really good for infants, and it's good when many people in the home are taking the same remedy, or if you only have a few doses left. So beyond the 4-dose rule, the potency and frequency of a homeopathic remedy is what determines how often to give it. Potential questions would be, how anxious is the person who's offering the remedies? Is someone else hovering over as you give them, waiting for a cure? How severe is the illness? How frequently is the person sick? And how healthy are they in general? Are there other medications involved? What access is there to conventional medicine if that care is needed, right? But basically, posology, which is the study of potency, is a very complicated matter. And so in general, the higher the potency, the less frequently you dose. The lower the potency, the more frequently you can dose. So a 6C, a 30C, those are considered low. Even the 200, you're getting a little higher. The 1M, 50, 10M, 50M, those are going to be less frequent. 1 dose is good. CM, MM, and 10 mm are mega potencies, and you dose very little of those. Timing. Over time, when you manage health, you may see illness repeat themselves. So when you educate the body's response with homeopathy, you'll start seeing change, especially if the body has been tampered with previously to homeopathy. So we want to look at the magic markers of health. Over time, the symptoms will become less intense. There'll be fewer episodes and larger space in between each episode. This is why it's great to take notes. So if you're, say, dealing with repetitive ear infections, they will still be there, but there'll be less intense symptoms, fewer episodes, and then larger space in between each episode. There's also timing with the biological clock. So some remedies work best with our biological rhythm. For example, ruse tox works better in the evening for poison ivy. In the daytime, Anacardium orientalis works better. There's also specific cough remedies at certain times of the night that are going to be more targeted. So you really want to listen to nature, listen to the body, and look at their reflections in each other. Homeopathy is medicine. You can choose the wrong remedy or the wrong potency. This would be its only side effect, far less than other medicines. If you do choose the wrong remedy, you want to stop, observe, listen, and wait. With a mischosen remedy, you can antidote it. You can leave it alone. Sometimes that's sufficient. You can sniff mint, and you can also drink mint tea if you really want to clear it. Or just move along to the right remedy once you've reassessed. So what is approving? This means that a person is exhibiting new or worse symptoms that weren't there before using the remedy, that the remedy was meant to resolve. This is a good time to use a materia medica. And you'll also want to refer to Hering's law of cure because it could be an aggravation rather than approving. So you'll want to revisit, have I had this before? Is this the path of fixing or healing the old condition? Materia medica is a homeopathy dictionary. So basically you would look up the remedy, hypericum, see what it's meant to do. If the person, for approving anyway, if the person is exhibiting a symptom that is listed there that they never had before, you have now proved the remedy, which means you need to stop taking it and move on and find a better one. The repertory is the other books that people use. You look these condition up in this book, and then it has a list of remedies, and then you match the remedies with the symptoms to find the best one. So for both of these, my favorite is Robin Murphy because he's a modern homeopath. He just passed away recently, and he really uses terms you're going to be more familiar with. But overall, how to choose a remedy, you're going to look for a cluster of symptoms to guide you. So when you read up on the remedies in the Materia Medica, in the repertory, you're going to look for as many things as you can that match what you're seeing is going on. You can also use shortcuts from other people's research as clues. The most important thing is to observe the person's body and their emotions, and these will indicate what to do. Listen deeply, observe, take notes, be patient, and above all, trust in the body's wisdom to heal itself. Some of my favorite people to pass on to you is Joette Calabrese. She's great for shortcuts for acute homeopathy. Use her blog. She studied with the Banerjee Doctors of India. I don't use that for chronics. I use Jill Turland. She's a homeopath in Australia. She uses facial diagnosis for chronic illness. Mega Potencies. She has books called Getting Back on Track and The Feel Good Flower Essences. Paula Brown is a children's curriculum writer, and she also works with Protecting Homeopathy with the FDA. I bring her up because to get fast, you have to get experience. You have to do this through trial and error, and it also comes with singing. She makes great CDs that are wonderful tools to teach your brain the top remedies that are good in acute cases, and it's a fun way for your children to learn. But my truth is this is not easy. It's a very complicated science of quantum physics. Materia medicas and repertories are tools to help you understand the remedies, but your mindset has to shift away from Western thought. We don't treat disease. We are looking at the whole being. You don't always get the remedy right, and you have to own a lot of remedies. So for me, I wanted to bypass my brain and feel more supported. I've leaned into my Healy device. It has cell salts. It has homeopathy. The resonance feature reads the body's information field and shares what's most appropriate and useful for that person, and it really takes the guesswork out. That has been a powerful tool for me. Above all, be prepared, and I wish you the best success with homeopathy. Feel free to reach out. Go to my website to get my contact info, support@hibiscushealing.com. And I pray that you feel empowered to be the head household healer in your home. Peace.